All right, now let's go to our next step. So we've identified the actors, we've identified the functional, non-functional requirements, we created a use case diagram, a context DFD, a system DFD, and now what I'd like you to do is go back on this, on the original requirements, and now identify the data elements needed for the individual data files. So we go back on up to here. We have a room data file, a reservation data file, an account data file, and a ticketing data file. So let's go look back on these requirements and see in here, is there specific information that we need to capture? And there's some implied information, but let's just look at some specific information that's being called out. So the first one is the search result. The search result will show the room type, price, and availability. Well, that would be an example of one. So we need to at least have this information in the database. The account must have the name, the mailing address, and the telephone number, and so forth. So what I'd like you to do is highlight in this, what's this, a brownish color, the data values that are needed to be captured. So room type, price, availability. We have a name, mailing address, email address, and telephone number for the account. The ticket should contain the room number and the issue that needs to be resolved. And once it's resolved, what was resolved? So I want you to go through the paragraph in your homework assignment and highlight the areas of the data files that are required. And then create a data dictionary. So let's go, again, let's look at the 4 different data file types that we have here. And if you list those 4 out, and I would recommend you use Excel would be more than sufficient for what your needs are. But if you break out these, identify the different data elements like I have here, right? And you list them out into the 4 different data file types. We've got the room, and so it specifically said we need the room type, the price, and the availability. So the room type and the price will be part of the room file. Now this won't change based upon this is the physical room in the hotel. Now based upon the reservation, we'll be able to find out the availability of a room based upon the reservations on that room. And then for accounts, we need to know the name, the mailing address, the email address, and the telephone number. So the name, the mailing address, the email address, and the telephone number. And for the ticketing system, we need to know the room number, the issue, what is the problem or the issue, and what was the resolution. So if I go back on here, I have the room number, the issue, and the resolution on that. Now in your data file, every data file is going to have what's called a primary key. And I've called my primary key my room ID, my reservation ID, my account ID, and my ticket ID. Okay. And so my room ID will be a sequential number, or it could be the actual room itself, like 100, 101, and so forth, the room type and the price. The reservation ID is, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, some number. A person will be reserving a room, so there'll be a link here between the room right. In fact, we could use an arrow to be able to show that connection. Okay. We'll have an account, so the account will have the account ID, the name, the mailing address, and so forth. And in fact, the reservation will have to know who reserved the room, somebody who has an account, right? And then there'll be a ticket ID. And the ticket ID will be for a specific room, and so it'll point to a room ID. Right. In fact, we could maybe just move things around to make it a little bit easier to see here. All right. So this is just kind of like storyboarding it a little bit in PowerPoint, and then if you move this over into Excel, I'm just taking the same information here. So D1 is my room, it's my room ID, my room type, and my price. And I like to put some sample data in here just to think about what it's going to look like. So maybe the room ID is room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4. Room type, maybe it's a double, single bottom floor, single top floor, suite, price range, or prices. And then my reservation. I may have, maybe all the reservations are RES1, RES2, RES3, and so forth. What's the room that they're linked to? When was the reservation date? And what is the account? So who reserved it? The account 1 would be down here. So the account file. Account 1, account 2, who's the name, the mailing address, the email address, and the phone number. And then the ticketing system, so the ticket ID. What do we have up here? Yeah, so the ticket ID, room ID, and issue, ticket ID, room ID, issue, resolution. And I added a date in here, so if it gets resolved, we'll know what date it was resolved. So I love putting in sample data so it better helps me understand what may it look like as I'm filling out the information, as I'm creating my data dictionary. And then my true data dictionary is over here on the right-hand side. So the data dictionary for D1, up here, the different fields are up top. Here they're in rows. So I've got my room ID, my room type, and my price. So this is the name or the field name here. And my type. So my first one is always what's called a primary key. It's always unique to, there's only going to be one room ID 1, only one room ID 2, and so forth. All right, so my type is a primary key. I have a string. And I'm mixing and matching these. Normally this would be, the primary key might be a different column, but for now this is fine. So primary key, a string and number. Reservation ID is a primary key. The room ID is a foreign key, pointing up back up here. My reservation date. And my account ID, it's pointing to my account data table. Okay, my account data table is going to have a name, mailing address, email address, and telephone number. Those are all called strings, and so forth. We'll go with this into more detail in our next class. I just want to give you a preview of this. And I've got a column here if it's required or not. This is coming off of the requirements document in here. So if it was in here, it would be required or it wouldn't be. All right, and then maybe validation. How does it validate this information? And then a description of the information of the individual field. All right, so wrapping it back up into the PowerPoint here, at the conclusion of this, if you were to receive a requirements document like this, your assignment would be to break this requirements document into the following steps. Identify the actors, the functional requirements in green, the non-functional requirements in purple. Transpose that into this table of functional requirements by actor and use case. And the non-functional requirements list out the actual sentence and then what category that falls into, mapping it up here from this table. From there, building out your use case diagram. And this should be copied, ideally, exactly as you've written it out of the functional requirements up here. You could narrow down a little bit the sentence, but it should be, for the most part, copied directly. You've got your actors listed here. From here, breaking it down into your context DFD. And then from there, into your system DFD. Okay? All right, thank you.